They got caught. They got caught. But then again, the crime that Jesus' disciples were allegedly committing was nothing more or nothing less than a felonious exercise in thorough hand washing. That's right, the disciples were getting popped by the popo in a display of wanton disregard for the rules and regulations. In this case, it was the rule about washing one's hands thoroughly, kind of like we do, or we've learned to do. Except the Pharisees didn't do it for cleanliness' sake, but in order to maintain the traditions of the elders. Picture Fiddler on the Roof. You see, the Pharisees had become self-proclaimed, singularized harbingers of truth and practice according to them. Not only did they interpret the law for the people, but they engaged in acts of enforcement. And they functioned much more like scare tactics than welcome wagon. So when Jesus comes along, the Pharisees are thrown for a bit of a loop. There's the conundrum they have to face up to associated with how is it that the Pharisees recognize the teaching wisdom of Jesus? They can only come from God, and yet they want to disregard him and his ministry and his disciples. It's a setup. And Jesus knows it. He won't have any part of this road of hypocrisy. When the Pharisees ask Jesus why his disciples eat with defiled hands, Pharisees may have approached this scenario and they lay it out. It's an open opportunity to play a little gotcha. Wherever Jesus is questioned, that's usually the scenario. But here's Jesus' disciples openly eating without having washed their hands thoroughly. The people are witnesses, all the people are witnesses to this unlawful act, and they're undoubtedly confused. Most of God's people are. The Pharisees lay claim to the tradition of the elders, human tradition, while Jesus offers up a correcting quote from Isaiah, where Isaiah declares, the people honored me with their lips, but their hearts are far, far away from me. In vain do they worship, teaching me human precepts as doctrine. And you abandon the commandment of God who takes hold of human tradition. For just such as this do we discover an opportunity that they might strike gold here among us. But it's not until the Pharisees show off the rest of their colors, their human colors, do we get a clearer picture of what drives them. What do you think drives the Pharisees? What are they out to do, out to get? What drives the Pharisees? Namely, jealousy, envy, and the fact that the people are not just following Jesus. They're listening to him, which is a nightmare for the Pharisees. They are listening to Jesus. And that poses a major threat to the Pharisees. The Pharisees are all about the legalism of the day, the following of rules and regulations, being in charge. For Jesus and the disciples, it's all about where to place our loyalty. For Jesus and the disciples, it's all about what could happen It's all about asking the question, so what are you feeling about right now? Where do you find yourself in the scheme of things? Have you got some Pharisees in your own life to contend with? Maybe more than one? How'd they get inside you? Me? Are they the kinds of things that keep you up all night? Have they gotten your last nerve? Is it hot? Do they give you such indigestion that you single-handedly went out and bought the major stock shelling of Tums and Rolaids? Or perhaps it's something at the workplace, or even several someones who just make life a living hell for you. Or quite possibly it could be an ex-spouse or estranged family member who simply will not let the pain and the suffering go. Or maybe it's a bad boss who enjoys watching her underlings squirm and feel uncomfortable, even sick. Identifying, naming, and claiming mark the first step in flushing down all that defiles and leaves us empty and alone. Remember Jesus' words. There is nothing outside a person that by going in can defile. It's the things that come out that defile. It's the things that come out of you and me that defile. It's the evil intentions and the fornication and theft and murder and adultery. These are the things that make us sick. They defile, keep us in a constant state of high alert. Let's say it again. It's things that come out that defile us. Or it could be even more. It could be that there are cold-hearted individuals in our world who sometimes are right. Sometimes their quest is unintentionally righteous, and they cause you to reflect, to think about your relationships with that person or that person. Maybe you're not the victim. Are you somebody's Pharisee? Worth thinking about. But all is not lost. There is more than enough hope to go around. And hope is the anticipation of a promised future. Hope identifies that fact, that there is nothing outside a person that by going in can defile. It is what comes out. It's always what comes out of the human heart. It's always the human heart, the soul, the very life breath. We are endowed with such a strong sense of self, who we are as disciples in Jesus Christ, that we raise our heads each and every day in an act of unbridled enthusiasm and announce to the world just how grateful we are to have woken up this morning wrapped in our bed sheets and not in our burial sheets. So we let the floodgates open. We let the flow of all the goodness that awaits us flow openly. Even in an upside-down world like ours, we still stand in awe. Stand in awe of the presence of our God and all the very real, hopeful, positive possibilities await us through Jesus Christ. Amen and amen.